Yeah.
including, so back in the day, um, I think on the African continent, there were 79 Cisco certified internet experts when I was leaving college, okay, in the entire continent. And my cousin was one of the 79, okay. There was 78 of those 79 in South Africa, and there was one in Nigeria, okay. The one in Nigeria, when he walks across the streets, people stop to look at him. At least people in our field. If you are a computer engineer, you are an electrical engineer, you're like, who is this person, right? Being a Cisco certified internet expert in 2002, 2003, 2004, it is the best thing you could ever be in the field of electrical engineering, telecommunication, and networking. And all I wanted to be was to be a Cisco certified internet expert. I took a few certifications. I became, I think it's CCNP, Cisco Certified Network Professional, and I became a Cisco Certified Voice Specialist, which were basically precursor to being a Cisco Certified expert, okay? And back in the day, you need to do 3 levels of examination to become a Cisco Certified Internet Expert. You will take a written test, which is like one of the toughest written tests you could ever take in the field of network engineering. And then you do 2 days of practical test. The first day, you get a scenario where you build a network, okay? And then you go to sleep. If you successfully build a network, you go home the first day, and then an expert from Cisco will come and introduce problems into your network.
Wow.
And then you come back the following day, you try and find the faults and resolve them, okay? If you successfully do these 2 things, then you become a Cisco certified internet expert, okay? My cousin was working in South Africa. He became a Cisco certified internet expert, and I wanted to be the same. And he got a job in the US. He was headhunted, left South Africa, moved to the US, and that was the path I wanted to follow. And one afternoon, I was working as a telecoms engineer. I called him up to let him know I passed the CCNP voice specialist, and he was excited for me. And I was telling him how I was going to go and start studying for my CCI written, because you need to do the written exam before you can then travel to South Africa and do the practical text. And he said, okay, that is good, Femi. You're doing a great job, but you need to start thinking beyond the CCI. And I was like, what is there beyond the CCI? Right? It never occurred to me there could be anything, which is where somebody who knows more than you, who sees more than you, could really be, the path to you seeing the inside that takes you to the next level. And I was like what? He said, like getting an MBA. I'm like, what? MBA? I never thought about it. Right? So that day, I'm like, where? He said, come to the US and get an MBA. I'm like, what? So that day, I went back to my team, and I had a bunch of young professionals that were working with me, right? They just left the university. I was a little bit more senior than them, okay? Just to let you know, you could have a mentor who is ahead of you, but you could have peer mentors, and you could actually have mentors who might be junior to you because they see what you don't see. So I was talking to these guys, and I said, guys, I was just talking to my cousin about my next step, and he was telling me I should start thinking about an MBA. And how am I going to find the money to study for an MBA? And one of them just started laughing at me and he said, what do you mean? You do not need money to go study for an MBA in the US. I'm like, what? What do you mean? He said, yes, if you get into one of the best schools in the US, they will give you money to go to school. And you just only have to pay back when you are done. I'm like, seriously? He said, yes. So he gave me the link to US News ranking of the top MBA program in the US. And I started studying to understand what it takes
Yeah.
to make the switch. So two things.
Yeah.
My cousin, he opened my eye to the fact that there's something beyond what I was looking and working towards. And people who were essentially working under me opened my eye to the fact that there could be a path to financing my MBA without having to break the bank.
Thanks. Wow, that's like so amazing. And I think a lot of us looked up to people like that, like our cousins, our big brothers, people in our families. So for those listening, sometimes you don't know the impact you're having. People around you are looking at you. Actually, Femi, my late dad, who I've told you about, was an engineer. And there are people in the village who went to engineering school because of him, just by looking at him. And I think one of them is on this call. Drop a comment. I think one of them was going to join. But yeah, so really nice to hear that. So now coming to your book, Melon Seed, which I read after I met you the first time, and I really enjoyed reading. What was Melon? Tell us. I know about it because I've read, but why Melon Seed? Why the title Melon Seed?
Oh, Melon Seed. Interesting. So my mom, okay, a single mother, was a single mother who basically got separated from my dad just around the time I was born.
Yeah.
And she single-handedly raised me.
Yeah.
Okay. So melon seed is two things.
Yeah.
So she was fermenting melon seed to make a special spice that is used in Western Nigeria. And that was basically how she made the money to train me. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you flip it, I'm actually the melon seed that was fermented that actually became the spice for who I am today and for the people around me. So it's two things. So it's more like a parable in the sense that mom fermented melon seed, got the money to train me, and then I came out essentially becoming a spice of some kind because I was fermented by her training and by effort and all those things. So that's basically how the title of the book came to be. And you probably know that I dedicated the book itself to the memory of my late mother and to all single mothers who are striving to raise their kids all by themselves.
Wow, yeah. I loved how your mom's story was told in the book. And I was very sad at the point when she passed away in the book. But yeah, I think she had a great impact, and kudos to all mothers. A number of us are where we are because of our mothers and fathers, of course. But yeah, mothers do have a special place in all our hearts. What would you say was the most defining moment in your career? And as you think about that, for the young professionals on the call, what misconceptions do you think they have about careers, career journeys?
I think for me, making the decision to go pursue an MBA was the defining moment for me. I was at that point in time getting tired of engineering. I was looking for ways to take my career to the next level, and it wasn't clear to me the path to follow. I thought pursuing a technical track would have been the best way for me, right? So that conversation with my cousin kind of opened my eyes to other opportunities, and the decision to it took me 2 years from that point to make all the preparation required to be accepted to my choice of business school, right? But that was the defining moment for me. I think the conception that I think is out there is that, people think there is a single path to the top. I don't think there is any single path, right? And I was having a conversation with one of my bosses. We talked about mentors before. I've been lucky from my time at ExxonMobil, to most of my time with the World Bank Group. My managers, my supervisors, I've managed to be able to find good managers, good supervisors that ended up being my mentors. right? And it's kind of like, it's a bit complicated in the sense that, most people say, oh, you don't want to make your supervisor your mentor, but if you have a good relationship, you could actually end up having a manager or a boss or a supervisor that will be an um, outstanding mentor for you. So for me, the defining moment for me was that. But I think the misconception that people have is thinking that it's a very strict path to the top, thinking that you need to map it out, right? Everybody will talk about you need to have a 5-year plan. Yes, it's good to have a 5-year plan, but you should know that the plan is not going to pan out exactly the way you map it out. Okay?
Yeah.
The benefit of having a 5-year plan is to ensure you have the energy propelling you forward. Okay? Are you going to meet obstacles along the way? For sure. Will you be required to pivot and redirect your energy? Absolutely, yes.
That's so true. Career journeys are not linear, and it's just something I've learned also along the way. You could start in one field, move to another field. So you just need to have that flexibility, the ability to pivot, as you've said, and everything like that. What would you say to people who are feeling lost or uncertain in their careers? You've gotten to a place and it doesn't feel like the right path anymore.
I think the one advice I will give, I think it was one of the philosophers that said things along the line of man, know thyself. Okay. I think for one to be fulfilled, either in a personal situation or in a professional situation, it is really important to go through the process of introspection and know yourself. What do you love to do? What are you good at doing? Where do you have your weaknesses, right? And it's really difficult to change. But if you make the effort to change, to work on things, over time you get better at whatever you do, right? If you don't know yourself, it's going to be extremely difficult to pivot.
Yeah.
Okay. And adapting to changes that are definite to come might be a bit difficult. So if you're at a point in your career where you're trying to decide what is the next thing for you to do, what I recommend is for you to take time to introspect. Look at yourself. What are the things that get you excited? What makes you eager to wake up in the morning? And how does that relate to your skills, your competencies, and your weakness? And are you in a career that's essentially aligned with those things? If they are not, what are the changes you can make to put you on that path? So many people they are on a job that, for the most part, they don't enjoy,
Yeah.
right? And it's really difficult to thrive in an environment where you don't have fun, really.
Yeah. And along your journey, have you had to find your purpose, your ikigai, that northern star to guide your career path? And what has that meant for you?
So for me, right, the good thing is that I seek for excitement, okay? And I can easily tell you, I like new things, right? So it will be easy to say, okay, Femi has been on the same job for 18 years. So how can he say he likes new things? Okay. In the time that I've been here, it will be like having 4 careers, 4 different careers, right? Even maybe more. My first year with the IFC, I spent entirely doing things in clean technology. That was back in the day before clean technology becomes something that is more like a vogue now, right? That was back in the day. And then I spent 6 years in telecoms. That was at the time when, telecoms was booming on the African continent, but in other parts around the world, right? I had the opportunity to do things from investment in mobile communication when broadband became something interesting. We were investing heavily in that. Look at power sharing on the continent, all of which were interesting stuff, right? And then I moved into doing infrastructure. And I did infrastructure for another 6 years, right? Things from, power supply on the African continent and in other places. Then I moved into a different role where I was leading project preparation, project development, and the like, right? So for me, the ability to get to do new things gets me excited. If I don't see the opportunity to innovate, to do new things, then things could easily become a little boring, right? So for me, my advice would be, what is that thing that kind of keeps you going? And what are the kind of environments that kind of energizes you? How do you then get into that kind of situation?
Oh, no, that's really great. And for everyone who's listening, please drop comments. I'm going to come to the questions and comments in the next 5 minutes. So please drop comments so that we can interact with Femi. Drop your comment or question, and then I'll also ask Rosie to unmute you so that we also hear your voice and your question. But as we start to open up to people, there's a lot of transformation happening globally with things like artificial intelligence and the different transformations that are shaping industry. What advice would you give to not just young professionals, but all of us? What kind of mindset do you think we need for career longevity and fulfillment? And what would you advise with all these changes happening globally that you're very aware of?
I mean, I think there are two things, right? The one is just a simple statement. The only thing that is going to be constant is change. Okay. And I think for young professionals to future-proof their career, they need to embrace change. They need to be aware that nothing is going to be constant. Okay. And I'll come to the second thing very quickly. When I was leaving college, what was in vogue is the ability to be able to use computer just to type, right? Back in the day, we talk about Word Perfect, Word Star. There was no Microsoft Word. There was no window, okay? If you have the skills to do that, then it makes a lot of difference in your professional outlook, okay? But then things change quickly. The internet became really the center of our life, right? And the next change, the current change is AI, okay? And it's going to change life as we know it, okay? But who knows what is going to come in the future? We cannot even think about it for now. The only thing a professional needs to think about is change is coming, and how do you then get prepared for what is going to come in the future? If you don't have a mindset that is open to change and to embrace it, it's going to be a little bit difficult for you as a professional. Then let me then come to the second thing. The second thing is what I call the parable of the cyclist. Okay, I don't know if any of you have heard about the parable of the cyclist. So let me explain. The parable of the cyclist basically says something along the line of, when you are not pedaling, right? When you are not pedaling, it means you're going downhill. Okay? For you, if you're cycling, for you to keep going, it makes you winding and you're pedaling. Okay? A career requires that you constantly continue to pedal. Okay? Pedaling is required for you to reinvent yourself, rediscover yourself, retool, reskill, so that you are adaptable and you're prepared for the future. Okay? And so if there's anything you remember from the conversation we have today, remember, the only thing that is constant is change. And for you to be ready for change, you need to embrace the parable of the cyclist. Because when you're not pedaling, you're going downhill. Okay? It might seem a little bit overwhelming, but that's the fact of life, right?
Yeah. That's amazing. And please drop your questions. My other question is on leadership. What do you think defines great leadership in today's world? And I know you've been doing a lot of work on economic development, poverty eradication. How do you balance what you're doing, but also ensuring that you have an impact in the world?
I think it's very easy for me, right? And I think for most people who do the kind of job that I do.
Yeah.
So we're lucky in the sense that the day job has impact embedded in it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't have to scratch my head to think about, am I having impact? Am I not having impact? If I do a good job, technically, then the outcome will be beneficial for economic development. So I count myself privileged. So, I'll tell people for this kind of a job, I don't even have to be paid to do it, right? It is really exciting. Okay. However, as a leader, right, I will say there are 4 things that I think are important for me. And it's all about what I call the 4 T's. Okay. You need to be true to yourself. Okay. As a leader, the ability to be true to yourself is really important. Okay. And how can you become true to yourself? You need to go through that process of introspection. What gets you to wake up in the morning? What are the things that are important to you? Okay. That's number 1. You need to be true to your mission. Okay. And when I talk about the mission, you have many organizations, your role is supposed to be aligned to your mission. But sometimes if you don't take the time to really understand what is the mission, what is the role, how does my role kind of interconnect to the mission, okay, you cannot be true to your mission. And then you need to be true to your role, right? Yeah. So how do you think as a leader? As a leader, you have an organization you work for. The organization has its own objective. It's your job to be true to the mission to ensure your activities on a day-to-day basis is linked to the mission and can bring results. You also need to be true to your team. And many a times reconciling these 4 things might be difficult unless you take the time to kind of ponder on them and say, what does it mean to be true to yourself? What does it mean to be true to your mission? What does it mean to be true to your role and your organization? And what about the team? Because you cannot do these things by yourself. So you need to do well for your organization, okay? And you need to do well for your team. And you need to do well by ensuring that the mission is accomplished. So for me, a leader needs to be able to check on these 4 things. And sometimes it's really difficult. You have to, put in the effort to kind of reconcile things.
Thanks so much. I'm moving to the comments. So far, we have Patience who says she loves what you've said, that the only thing that's going to be constant is change. Then we have Engineer Gekara who says, I became an engineer because of the positive mentorship of Engineer Dan Osoro. That's my late dad. I remain indebted to him. Then he says, just like the speaker, my mom sacrificed all for me to become what I am. Tired of engineering now. And he's doing honey business. So he's also pivoted, which is a complete career change. He wishes he could have changed earlier. So yeah, that's Engineer Gekara.
Can I respond to that quickly?
Please respond, yes.
So it's never too late. Whenever you decide to change. So I went to business school at 35, okay? I was already 35, I was married, I had 2 kids. It was really a risky proposition, okay? But then better late than never, right? That's the saying. When I was coming out of business school, I was about the oldest kid in my graduating class. I think there was one guy who was 1 year older than me, finished, okay? But it's turned out well. If your mind tells you you need to make the move, you make it. But you need to go through the process of introspection, determine what are the best options for you and what does it mean for you. And what is the fallback plan? I was lucky. When I was going to business school, ExxonMobil gave me the option to return, okay? So I had a downside protection of some sort, spent 2 years without a salary, got my degree, and ExxonMobil was willing to take me back, okay? But I found my passion, so I decided not to go back to ExxonMobil. So you need to think about the risk, the reward, and the balances of all of those and how you reconcile that in making a decision. So if I'm going to be going into bee farming, like you, engineer, I probably will be doing my engineering work during the day. I might be farming during the weekend. And then when it's gotten to the stage where, I could take more risk, then I can leave my engineering job and go into the bee farming. So that could be one way to kind of mitigate the downside risk. Sorry for interrupting you, Phyllis. Please go ahead.
Not a problem. Thank you for responding to Engineer Gekara. I'll move to the next question from Caroline, who says, thank you for this CareerSight. I'm 35, currently doing my master's in procurement, and I have a degree in procurement option, BCom. Currently, the position I am in is a secretary, and I have given up. I'm trying to apply for jobs, and most of them are regrets. I've thought of changing my career to nursing. Please, can you advise me? I'm confused. Thanks, Caroline.
Okay. Okay. So I think the thing I will mention is this, right? It is better to make our skills cumulative, okay? Because then there's an advantage. There will be growth. If you have to start afresh every time you pivot, it might be difficult. So I think it was Andrew Carnegie who was giving a commencement speech to graduating class many, many, many years ago. One thing he said was, you need to decide on what you want to do quickly, and you need to stick to it because it takes an entire lifespan to master a field, okay? Okay, but not everybody can pick one job and stay with it throughout. But you want to do the closest thing to what Carnegie said by ensuring that your skill is cumulative. Otherwise, there will be no growth and you're going to be starting all over again. So let me give you an example. For the things that I do in finance, okay, having a broad base of knowledge is useful. So when I started in my current organization, because I was a telecoms engineer, after my first rotation, my second rotation was in the telecoms investment group. So my knowledge of telecoms engineering has some benefits in moving my career forward as an investment person, okay? When I needed to pivot, to move from infrastructure to manufacturing and project development, I need to think about what skills I have gathered in infrastructure that could be relevant, okay? So if you're a procurement person, if you want to go into the medical field, you want to think about which area of the medical field you go to, such that your entire career up to the point that you got to 35 is not completely wasted, okay? If you went to being a nurse, it's fine, but remember, you're 35, right? So you start from the beginning. How long does it take to get you to where you need to be? For instance, if you want to go into healthcare, are there elements of the healthcare industry where procurement skills could be a foundation? Would those be options for you to consider such that you can rely on your procurement experience and have a leg up when you have conversations, okay? Of course, it does not mean that you can start as a nurse. You can. If that's what you want to do, I know people who do it in the US, they abandon the degree completely and they start all over again. It can still be done.
Okay, thanks for that. But very important, what you've said about skills being cumulative and seeing how you link your journeys. It makes it easier as you pivot. But here, hopefully that has been a useful answer. So Lillian is asking, please advise, how do I gain more confidence? What platforms can I use to build my confidence, especially when you're about to be a leader? How do we build confidence?
So I think the one area to start is that, look, everybody, no matter who the person is, has some element of self-doubt, okay? The only thing that leaders do is that they leave it in their closet, okay? So you need to know that everybody is vulnerable. Everybody has their own weaknesses. They have their own doubts. The only thing you need to do in preparation is to leave it in your closet. And then you bring your best self forward in every situation that you have. So I'll give you an example. So for me personally, okay, I will say to people, when they say, oh, Femi, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? I will say I'm a situational introvert. and a situational extrovert. What does that mean? It depends on the situation. If I find myself in a completely foreign environment, I might just be in my shell. I won't want to come out, okay? But I know that about myself. So what do? I need to find the opportunity to bring myself out. So I think in terms of what you need to think about, you need to realize that everybody, including that person that you are looking forward to becoming like, they are also human. They have their own pluses and minuses. They have their own doubts and they have their own challenges. And the moment you begin to think about yourself as a leader and focusing on the things that are positive about yourself, you begin to make that step. Okay. So, I mean, we can talk forever about, this topic is really a very interesting and very good question.
Okay.
But happy to talk offline, Phyllis, if
we'll
this person wants to talk more, happy to talk.
Yeah, she's actually said, thank you for your answer. I need to rethink and consider some things. So we'll follow through with those one-on-one mentorships with some of these questions. I realize I'm talking a lot, so I'll ask the next speaker. James, are you able to come to the mic? James is the CEO of the Nairobi Hospital. That's like the largest hospital in Kenya. James, if you're able to, you could make your comment, and then we'll move to Abby. Abby is he'll introduce himself. James, please go ahead, if you can.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Yes.
I don't know if you are hearing me.
We can hear clearly.
Yes. Thank you, Phyllis, for this particular program which you brought this evening. Personally, I supported the speaker that one thing which I believe in life is that money is not which can make you to be what you want to be. What really makes you is that urge that you want to be something in life. Personally, I started as a very junior level as a corporate officer, and then I wanted to be an accountant. But when I found out that I would not make it as a full qualified accountant, I decided to go back to university. My mom used to make changa. That's what made us what we are, and we are very grateful for her. But I had that urge that I would be a decision maker in this country one of these days. And I pursued that career. Lucky, I joined an NGO which discovered my potential. They sponsored me to university. I finished my first degree. Then I worked out under the chairmanship of Professor Ogoti. Ogoti really mentored us. Me personally, when I was working with the National Oil, I grew up to the acting chief executive. Then I left. I joined the Kenya Pipeline. But still, at that age of increasing my knowledge, I didn't have the money. But all through, discipline was one of the key elements which somebody has to display. Personal discipline. And this is what has made me to climb the ladder up to the institutions which now I'm working. When I left Kenya Pipeline, I didn't come to look for the job at the Nairobi store. There was head hunting. And then I found myself being selected to be the CEO. And this is the position I've occupied for the last 4 years. So money should not be anything which will make somebody to be what it is. Money is nothing. It is the motivation. The motivation one is having.
Thank you.
So I will give you that comment, I'm glad.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that comment. I'll allow Abby also to say something, then hand over back to Femi to respond or for any comeback. Abby, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. My name is Femi Akinrebiyo. I'm Kenyan, but I work and live in Rwanda. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm in the communications space in the media business. My question to our speaker today is in regards to what you mentioned about having a 5-year plan. I just want to know, what would that look like from your experience? How would you structure that? And then secondly, I just want to know, how did you navigate through stereotypes, especially looking at your very great track record in your career? You've worked in different missions and in foreign lands. What would be your advice really in regards to how to distinguish yourself in the marketplace? Thank you, Phyllis.
Thanks, Abby. Abby's from CNBC, a great journalist there.
No, James, thanks for your comment, and Abby, thanks for your comment. I think first I want to reinforce the point that James made. You know, you can learn so many things, okay? You can get insight from mentors. People can open doors for you. But, I'll go to the Holy Book again, right? One of the Holy Books said, knock, and it shall be open unto you, okay? Ask, and it shall be given unto you. So the inner desire, nobody can teach you that. It needs to be from within, right? And this is where introspection is important. The fact that you don't have inner desire and the urge in one field does not mean you're not going to have it in another field. So you need to think quickly, very early on, and say, what is that thing that drives you? Because if you're in that part, the desire is going to be natural. The push is going to be there, right? And it's related to the points, that Abby made about 5-year plan. What does it look like? It could be as simple as, I don't want to be where I am now in 5 years' time. Okay? So, and then if you don't want to be where you are now in 5 years' time, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Okay? So it's like when they say you shoot for, shoot for the moon? And then if you don't get it, you'll find yourself, but, think about it now. I think you should shoot for the stars, because the stars are farther away than the moon, right? Right? It was when I learned a little bit about astronomy that I realized you shoot for the stars, and then you might get the moon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the point is, in your 5-year plan, you know where you are now. You should have the aspiration for where you want to be in 5 years' time. And there are steps in between. If you don't get to where you have written down, okay, you will get somewhere. Another holy book did mention, I think this was in the Bible, it's in a place called Habakkuk, I think chapter 2, verse 2. It talks about you having a vision and writing the vision down, okay? So there's a reason for it, because it's a bit metaphysical in the sense that you need to internalize the vision. And then when you write it down, you're bringing it to materiality as the first step. And then the execution becomes really easy, right? So, Abby, I cannot give you a precise description of what the 5-year plan should be, but it should be something that you've thought about in terms of where you are now and where you want to be. And it should be something that goes beyond being in your mind to being written down as a plan, such that you can give power to it to manifest, okay? And hopefully there are interim steps along the way such that you can measure your progress as you move along, okay? The last point you raised about stereotype. Of course, there are stereotypes everywhere, globally, at the national level, at the regional level. What is important is for you to believe in yourself and believe in your ability and continue to pay that through. You're going to meet with obstacles, but water will always find its own level.
Thanks so much for that. I'll ask a lady. I can see Kezia Midiwa with a question. Rosie, please unmute so that she can ask her question. And then I saw Engineer Gekara responding also as we unmute. Thanks for your advice on the side hustle. From time to time, I started putting up apiaries for customers while tending bees. He learned it in school. So he's saying he advises young people here not to look at one technique only. So build different skills and different techniques. Over to you, Kezia. You have the mic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Phyllis. I'm actually enjoying today's conversation very much. So Femi, you've talked about you loved your job so much you could even work for free. So my question was that what was the most rewarding moment in your career? The time when you felt, wow. What was the most rewarding moment in your career?
Okay. No, thank you. That's a good question. So I'm African, right? And we have a saying where I grew up that charity begins at home, right? So for me, the projects that I've done on the African continent are the ones that give me the most satisfaction, okay? And, back earlier on in my career, and I can give more recent examples, but the ones that is really, that stuck with me for the most part is the investment we did, which happened to be the first tower sharing investment that my institution did globally. And we did it on the African continent, okay? And we were basically introducing a new business model on the African continent, okay? The company, so we raised $250 million for the company back in 2009, right? The group eventually became a large company listed on the London Stock Exchange, okay? So for me, why is this really important to me? First of all, because it's something new. There's some element of innovation in it. It was the very first time we were doing something like this. And we were doing something that actually increased telecom access for people on the continent. And that was before the time when, everybody in Nigeria was carrying 3 phones, or in South Africa, they have multiple phones and the like, right? And the company became a Sussex, that is now eventually listed on the London Stock Exchange. So for me, this was really exciting.
Thanks for that, Maureen. Thanks for the question. And yeah, I think doing work in the continent, because I also do work around the world, it's always really rewarding when we do work on the continent and do something impactful on the ground. So as I wait for any final questions, because we are winding up in the next few minutes, the question I had, if you went to your younger self, what is the one piece of career advice you would give your younger self? Then I'll ask you a final question. If anyone has any questions, please drop them. We'll wind up in the next few minutes. Thanks.
So Phyllis, I think the only thing I would tell my younger self is be ready for change, okay? Be ready for change. I studied electrical engineering. I was very sure I didn't want to do the power and the machine side of engineering. Sorry, let me take water.
Go ahead.
So I knew I didn't want to do power, I didn't want to do machine. I want to do the ones that is the part of electrical engineering that is the softer, okay, more white collar side of electrical engineering, right? But I was in a place where opportunities are not that many. So you cannot be choosy. Getting out of college in Nigeria back in the day, whatever job you find is what you do, right? So you're even lucky to find a job to start with, right? So you can't be choosy. But I think in a way, I found the opportunity to, take certifications, get mentorship, get into, telecoms, which was much closer to what I wanted to do. And I had the opportunity to change jobs multiple times within the telecom industry, progressively until I decided to pivot and get into something else. I think the only thing I'll say to myself is be ready for change, be versatile, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's good. There's a question. How does one access credit from IFC? And then the second, I'll ask both. Sorry for asking on your behalf. I would like to pivot into international development and work for institutions like World Bank. What do these companies look for? I've been rejected many times.
Okay, so I think let me answer the last question first.
Yes.
The easier way to do it is to find somebody who is doing the kind of job you want to do, okay? Speak with the person, get to understand what the job entails. Very few people would apply to a job just randomly and will be shortlisted because you might, first of all, why are you being rejected? Is your resume tailored to the job? Is your qualification aligned with the job? Do you have relevant experience? Are you trying to get into entry-level position? Or are you a mid-career person, right? So it would be really difficult to answer the question unless I really know your situation and the context. At every point in time, we'll have multiple positions open in different locations, right? So you need to look very closely and see which one is really a good match for, because we're continuously looking for good talent, especially on the African continent, right? So you need to figure out what is your background, what is the profile for the job, and if you need to do things to bridge the gap, how do you figure out, a way to kind of bridge that gap? And at times you might need to, because, on the African continent, we don't do a lot of networking. And I didn't realize how important networking is until I moved to the United States. It is good for you if you want to join the World Bank Group, find somebody, in your country who works for the World Bank Group, talk to the person, ask for coffee, get to understand what the job entails, what skills we're looking for, and that kind of a thing. That way, when you do your next application, it's going to be much more tailored to the role, and it will increase your chances of getting called for interview.
Okay.
And then the next question about how do you get financing from us? That is a long one, right? So get to the website, see the kind of project we invest in. If you have an idea, reach out to somebody who, every country that we have presence, you go to the website, you're going to have an email address. You can send a request to the email address. And in many countries, we have local offices. You can knock on the door, try to seek an appointment, and introduce your business plan to us.
Okay, we are running out of time, but I can see Patience saying, find someone who's doing what you want to do. You said that about, and she says, no better time to be alive than in a Zoom meeting, because I think she probably wants to do what you want to do. Thanks for the insightful. Passion and purpose, in short, doing what you love can be difficult to find. Some people search forever. Some gain remarkable skills and talents only to think, I'm great at this, so why don't I even feel successful? Others, even after building successful businesses, suddenly think, hold on, this is not for me. Some great mentors have disappointed mentees by declaring that they didn't live a fulfilling career. Where does one draw the line? And that's the last question we'll take, but please feel free to keep posting. We'll share them with Femi and come back. Go ahead.
I think it's personal.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is which one now? Is it Maslow hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
Right? So you need to think deeply and say, what makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled?
Yeah.
Is it power? Is it position? Is it money? Is it peace of mind? Is it a happy family?
Yeah.
Some people are lucky they have all of it, okay? But we really can't know the real truths because we're not in them, so we really don't know, okay? So you need to think as an individual and say, what do I need in my life? What is going to make me happy? What's going to make me fulfilled? Is it a big job title?
Yeah.
Or is it being able to take care of my family? And what does it mean to be able to take care of my family? These are things that are extremely personal. And I think through the process of introspection is the only way that we can discover. Right? Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult. Nobody can tell you what it takes. Yeah. What it means for one person to be fulfilled, it's just the starting point for another person. And sometimes it depends on where you're starting from. Are you starting from a village back in Africa and you want to go 7,000 kilometers and work in an international organization? Even entering the gates might be enough for you as fulfillment, okay? But where are you starting from? Where do you want to be? What's going to make you happy? And it cannot be a continuous aspiration without you defining at what point are you going to say I'm fulfilled? Yeah. Right?
Thanks so much for that. I'm writing articles on careers, and the one I'm currently working on is actually on crafting your career, the role of passion and purpose. And a lot of these things you've said are so true. Introspection, journaling, writing down, doing all those things takes us closer because it's very personal. It's different for everyone. But the final question before I let you go, I'm encouraging everyone to buy Melon Seed or read it somehow. But what is the one lesson you want all of us to take from Melon Seed?
I think for me, it's the only thing that can stop you is your mind. Okay.
Yeah. So
keep
only
that in mind. The only thing that can stop you is your mind. If you believe, you can do it.
Amen.
Right?
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll keep these conversations going. When you agree to speak at CareerSight, you join our community, you become one of our mentors. So we'll always feel free to reach out, create platforms and opportunities for you to continue to share your knowledge and experience. And really, Femi, we thank you for your time, for what you've shared. It's been profound, even for me, and we've learned a lot. So we'll see how to keep this conversation going, how to bring you on. If you're in the country, we'll organize for you to meet some of the community and the people around us. And thanks everyone for joining, for your questions, for the time. And I'll allow Grace, the CEO, to just give us some updates. I'm with her here, so she'll move to where I am.
Thank you, Phyllis, and thanks to everyone. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you, Femi. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us today. And this has been quite transformational. One thing that I think you kept saying is that the only thing that is constant is change. So let's keep remembering that. For those who feel like they're stuck, for those who are progressing, let's remember the only thing that is constant is change, and it's never too late. Thank you to all of you for joining us today as well. We've really enjoyed the conversation, and this has been our first webinar for the year, and we're looking forward to many, many more. I will just update you on our upcoming events in March, which is next month. The last week of March 29th, for all the amazing women here. March is our Women's Month, and we have an incredible career dialogues for the women in March, which we are titling Empower Her, where we're going to speak about all the challenges we face, how to pivot, how to overcome these challenges as women. And we are going to have incredible industry leaders. For those who joined us last year, I'm sure you enjoyed it. And for those who did not join us, please be sure not to miss it. So 29th of March. And you will find all the updates for the event on our social media channels, which is CareerSight. 𝐓𝐫𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐼 will be able to put the names of the handles on the chat. So CareerSight on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Then our next webinar will be in April. Therefore, if you have any suggestions of a speaker that you'd like to have on the webinar or topics that you'd like us to handle, kindly email us at communications@careersight.org. 𝐓𝐫𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐼 will be able to also put the email right there. Therefore, you can keep your suggestions coming. And then I know some of you have reached out for one-on-one mentorship. So therefore, you can also be able to write to us at communications@careersight.org, and we shall be able to advise you further. Also, kindly also go onto our website to look at all the other products that we do have, one-on-one mentorship, the corporate mentorships, and also for those who would like to partner with us, either for the webinars or if you'd like us to conduct these mentorship programs for you or your organizations, feel free to also write to us at communications@careersight.org. Also, for those who'd like to sponsor the webinars or the Career Dialogues dinner and bring and onboard your colleagues for our Career Dialogues, also kindly reach out to us on our email. So this has been fantastic. Thank you to Phyllis as well for hosting this. It's always amazing, and see you on the next webinar in April. And for all the ladies, see you in March. Thank you. Oh yes, there'll be a similar event for the men. The Men's Month comes after the women.
We'll do.
So we'll do one as well. Thank you,
Thanks,
Joe.
everyone.
All right, have a good
Thanks,
evening.
everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.